Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. If you are new, I invite you to subscribe. It will help me reach that major mile marker where I will become rich and famous of 100 subscribers. Beyond that, in all seriousness, thank you if you have subscribed. Thank you if you have watched any of my bullshit. Because fasten your seatbelts. Tonight we're going to go on a really long 3-page of notes journey into Legion. So, cheers and God bless you. Why Legion, you ask? I'll tell you. Not since Lost have I had emotions. Have I wanted to sit in and stew and be in and talk to other people about and just live in something since Lost. Lost, if you don't know me, you're going to get to know me real quick, is my barometer for storytelling as far as television is concerned. And as far as a lot of storytelling is concerned, whether it's film, literature, like J.J. Abrams, Damon Lindelof, and Carlton Cuse set a bar. We're going to take Golden Girls and put it over here because Golden Girls is the only other greatest show of all time. We're going to put her over here. Lost in 2004, J.J. Abrams pitched ABC the idea for the pilot, and blessings to ABC and Disney for saying yes, because you gave me some of the most amazing moments and memories of my life. So yes, I'm biased, but, and I'm a nostalgic bitch, but Lost was the first moment of, in 2004, with the pilot of Lost, J.J. Abrams ushered in an era of prestige TV, which we have today, right? Everybody talks about prestige TV. Everyone's going, leaving Hollywood and going to TV, right? Like, we know this. We have Lost to thank for that. Lost ushered in the renaissance of television. Before Lost, the only thing that I can think of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, please comment below, that came in the stratosphere, like came close in terms of like touching that, was Twin Peaks. David Lynch created a narrative so beautiful and so complex that it took the audience and invited the audience to engage beyond that 50 minutes of television. You had motherfuckers on bulletin boards and chat rooms on AOL. But that was 12, 15 years ago. Then you had like dead air, and then you have Oceanic Flight 415, right? Like you have Lost. Lost is my barometer because it was the first time and I think for a lot of people, saw somebody take a narrative and film it on the scale that would normally be in film, in the big screen, in a cinema, take and utilize cinematography and utilize narrative devices that would normally be reserved for the theater and put it on network television. And not only did he do that, and not only did Lindelof and Cuse caretake and curate that narrative over the course of 8 seasons, but you had a narrative that invited an audience to invest in one of the largest ensemble casts in television history. 25 plus characters, time travel, complex plot twists. A lot of people did drop off. Okay, yeah. And if you're one of those people, unsubscribe. I don't even want you in my life. Kidding, but not kidding. But you had this effort on such a grand scale that landed. It did what David Lynch did a decade earlier and took the audience out and beyond that 50 minutes of television every Wednesday night on ABC, and people were theorizing online. They were creating fan boards and lost their own, like, Wikipedias, the Lostpedia. They were creating fan art. They were invited to create this new universe. That being said, Lost is my barometer for what television can be. And granted, I'm biased. I love Lost, and I have so much nostalgia and personal memories wrapped up with watching it every Wednesday as it aired. But Legion is the first show that I've watched that's given me, again, that same impetus to really want to be in it and sit with it and live in it and talk to people about it and, like, think about it outside of the show. And as a philosophy major, it speaks to me, of course, on that level, because I can literally write a thesis on any episode. I mean, literally draw an episode out of a hat. I could write a paper on it. That's how well developed this show is. So, that being said, we're here to talk about Legion. Legion aired on FX. It just had its series finale after 3 seasons. May it rest in peace. The showrunner, creator, producer, writer of many episodes is Noah Hawley. Noah Hawley, you may or may not know, has been the showrunner, creator, director, producer, and writer on some of the episodes, of Fargo, which is the FX television adaptation of the Coen brothers movie Fargo, right? This show, in my opinion, is much better than the movie, which I don't know when that ever happens, but it did. Season 1 gave me Billy Bob, and then they gave me another season, and then Kirsten Dunst, just like an angel from the heavens, just gave me one of the best performances I've ever seen. And then, I'm going to get started. And then they snubbed her. She got nominated for an Emmy, 2 years ago? And then fucking Lady Gaga won for American Horror Story Hotel? No. Anyways, if you watched Fargo, you understand that that's, like, over here. And in the spectrum of, like, shows and storytelling, like, Legion is, like, not even over here. It's, like, in some other, like, weird subdimension. And that one person could, like, create and juggle that apple and that orange in such an eloquent way. Like, I can't. If no one told you that Legion is a comic book character from the Marvel Universe, and you just were told to watch this show, I would wager that it wouldn't be until the latter half of season 3 that you'd be like, is this related to a comic book? That is how well done Legion is. Now, in this Hollywood Reporter article, which I will link below, they're interviewing Noah Hawley specifically about the finale, and he even says that, can I even pull up the quote? Does mommy have it? I want to see. I do, but I might not. Where is he talking about genre? Oh, here we go. Okay. This is Noah talking. I think the original idea was, let's take the genre out of it and think about a story. And if it works as a great drama, then when you add the genre back into it, it'll only be more exciting because you'll be able to play with all those tools that you don't have in a traditional drama. Now, this is what's amazing about Legion. Again, if no one told you you were watching a comic book narrative, you might not be the wiser. He literally took the narrative, developed it as its own drama, and then re-injected the genre into it after the fact so he could have more toys to play with in terms of narrative devices. And I'm telling you, it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece of storytelling. Legion, if you don't know, is David Haller, the son of Professor X, Charles Xavier of X-Men fame. And Legion refers to his alter ego, or egos as it were, because he has all of these multiplicities of personalities and shadows living within him, one of which is an actual parasite. Shoutouts to the Shadow King. But the first season and the undertone and the foundation of the show is a discussion about what is mental illness. We still really don't know, and the show really does a great job of asking that, questioning the fact that we really don't know. And where does mental illness meet somebody who's supernatural? In the end of season 2, his friends and the protagonists of the show are basically saying you're both, right? You are supernatural, you are superpowered, but sorry, David, you're also mentally effing ill. So the way the narrative articulates how those two like rub up against each other, to me, conjures up symptoms of schizophrenia and other things, but it's very much like this schizophrenic, a foot in both worlds thing that is just so well articulated that I don't even think a lot of clinicians or mental health professionals or even people that are dealing with mental illness could articulate. I mean, it's just so well done. Anyways, so this results, this rubbing up against his mental illness, rubbing up against him being supernatural, creates ultimately like a megalomaniac, like a narcissist. You know, David Haller now has a god complex and thinks he can like fix time and fix everything, and he is, you know, the savior, as it were. My qualms with season 3 are that we did not get enough episodes. Given that we didn't get enough episodes, I think they did great with what time that they had. But much like the final season of Game of Thrones, I kind of felt like things were a little rushed. Where Game of Thrones' final season did not land for me, this did land, but I do still wish there were more time, especially to develop Switch's character. And he even says in the Hollywood Reporter article that Switch was not even a character that had been developed until season 3 was in production, or they were developing season 3 rather. So you have this amazing character. She's a time traveler, a fourth dimensional being, and you really are drawn to her, but you don't have 2 seasons like you do with Carrie and Sid and Ptonomy and everyone else, Lenny, to get to know her. So that was one of my qualms. But what's brilliant about the show, or excuse me, the final episode, is that within the first 30 seconds, so much happens, and you don't even see a single character on screen. So the show opens with just some titles on the screen, and it starts with, "This is the end, period." Then it says, "This is the beginning, period." And then it says, "This is the end, period," again. And then you start to hear narration, and I believe it's David's voice that's narrating it, and he says, "Time travel does not equal change," okay? Most of what we glean from time travel narratives in science fiction or in like Avengers or anything else is that, you know, the idea is that you can go back in time and change something, right? Like, or you can go into the future and repair something. Legion is like letting you know time travel does not equal change, but rather eradication of the self. Time travel does not equal change, it equals eradication of the self. But in the eradication of the self, something new is able to blossom. he goes on to say that this is a form of grace. And to see it as a form of grace, I think is just like a thesis in and of itself. Like, I really can't. The titles say stuff like, you know, the future is not for us to know. We are just here to play the part as it is written. Only history can, you know, tell what will be. Beyond that, again, not a single character has popped up on the screen yet. Like, this is the first 30 seconds. You hear the narrator. I think this is still David. It's not Farouk yet. I think it's David. He says, if we don't believe in change, then we don't believe in time. Now, I am personally somebody that struggles with the idea that people change. I don't believe people change. I fundamentally think people stay the same. This idea that if we don't believe in change, then we don't believe in time is really, like, again, speaks to how much this show, like, moves me, because I am not just invited, but, like, I'm forced to reconcile with, like, fucking heady philosophical notions about self, time, trauma, all of it. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. You move into the narrative of the series finale. You see Farouk, which is one of the greatest characters I've ever seen land on television. I have not read the comics, but if I have ever wanted to, it's because of this show. Amal al-Farouk is the parasite that lived within David Haller and was one of the catalysts for his mental illness and or supernatural abilities. He was the shadow that lived inside of him, fed off of him, manipulated him. And in the finale, you have this great moment where Farouk, who has been, like, kind of in the astral plane the past couple of episodes, trying, really, like, just being forced for the first time over 3 seasons to sit with himself, says to David when he walks in the door, I just simply can't quit you. I mean, it's so simple and so mundane, but it's amazing. He says, I simply can't quit you, nor would you want me to. I mean, I can't. And there's, like, references to the Matrix, not, like, literal references, but, like, cinematography. There's references to the Matrix. There's, for fuck sure, references to Lost. The opening scene of Legion in season 1 is the same as the closing scene in the series finale. You can thank Lost for that. Oh my god, my notes. Wow. There's a moment where Carrie and Carrie, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know where to begin. The fucking time-eating cats, okay? Like, let's talk about the time-eating cats. An entity that eats time. And the way it's fucking shot in this show is so psychedelic and so beautiful. It's so trippy and so accurate of what it is to be having a psychedelic experience, but also being completely sober, but maybe having like a major moment of, like, not being in control of your own mind. It's just, I can't even tell you how much the time-eating cats, like, spoke to this bitch. What else do we have here? Yeah, getting back to Carrie and Carrie. The finale, I think we didn't give them enough screen time, but what an amazing characters for storytelling. Like, their relationship is beautiful. I think their scene in the finale was well executed. I think it was worthy of, it was a closure worthy of the investment that the audience had made and worthy of the characters themselves. Man, oh God. David, over the course of season 3, as he's like becoming a megalomaniac and becoming a narcissist with his God complex, thinking he can alter time and fix the past and unrape Sid and just, save the world from himself, is constantly through season 3 repeating, I'm a good person, I'm worthy of love. I'm a good person, I'm worthy of... Like, that's his mantra that he repeats to himself. And there is a moment in the finale where Farouk straight up says, when he hears David say that, no, you are not. And, like, that's the first time that David gets checked where he actually, like, seems to receive that information. I mean, it's... oh, my God. What else do I have here? We're just on page 1, y'all. A lot of people were disappointed, maybe myself, that we didn't get like a huge like dance-off scene like we did in other seasons, or in the season 2 finale, but we did get a musical moment, which Legion is very well known for, imbuing like the show with like these just pop culture moments that are just really psychedelic and trippy and just like awkward and funny and silly, but like also beautiful and very like layered and textured, like the dance off in the end of season 2 or season 1 and the psychic battle to the Who in season 2, but in season 3 we don't get a battle. Like that's I think one of people's qualms with season 3 is like there was no big battle physically or even in the astral realm physically, but there was like this psychological astral battle happening, if that makes any fucking sense. Anyone who hasn't watched this show is probably like watching, I don't know, How to Be More Productive. I don't know. You have this beautiful moment where David is in a straitjacket and he is singing Mother by Pink Floyd, and it's a duet with Stephanie Cornelissian. I will not pronounce her name right. Who was also in Mr. Robot and was grossly underutilized in Mr. Robot. But anyways, she's also amazing as David's mother. And you have this amazing moment where they're singing Mother by Pink Floyd. Mother, you hear David sing, Mother, should I build the wall? Mama's, and, he's sitting there in a straitjacket and he's singing these lyrics and he's asking these questions. And then she comes in and she's like, Mama's gonna make all of your nightmares come true. I mean, Mama's gonna, check all your girlfriends for you. Mama's gonna help you build the wall. And then, of course, you have David with the final line, like, Mama didn't have to be so high. Like, it's... I don't know what you want from me. The whole time I was watching Legion, because I knew Legion was Professor X's son, I'm thinking David has daddy issues, right? But really, David has mommy issues. I mean, he has daddy issues. But his daddy issues really aren't related to Charles. They're really related to Farouk. Farouk was his father figure in a lot of ways. that being said, like, I think he has a lot of mommy issues, and I wish, again, that we had more time in season 3, because in season 3, we're introduced to his mother and her history as being the progeny of 2 Holocaust survivors, and what that trauma did to her, and how she's passing that on to David. I mean, it's like a whole... Again, like, every moment could be a thesis. What else? I can't even read my own handwriting. Oh my god. Okay. So Charles is in the astral realm because he is dealing with Farouk, where in the past, the timeline that has led to David becoming Legion is that Charles Xavier goes and battles with Farouk for like decades or maybe even centuries, I don't know. And that battle is the inception for Farouk inhabiting David and all of the horrors that result from said parasitic relationship. In the finale, we see Charles meeting with Farouk, but instead, again, of them battling, instead of them battling, they have a beer in the astral realm, which, okay. And the Emmy goes too. They have a beer together in the astral realm and speak as gentlemen. And Farouk lets Charles know that he feels like a father to David, even though he has been a parasitic, manipulative shadow entity that's ruined his life. He's gotten to know David since he was an infant, and as such, he feels like a father. And then you have this moment later on in the episode where Charles is talking to David, and he says, like, I was never able to be your father in the past, meaning in the past timeline, but now I have this opportunity to course correct, so let me be your father now. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. But before that happens, there's this moment where David and his father are in the astral realm, and they're getting ready to like battle Farouk before, you know, Daddy has a beer with him. And, you know, they're manifesting things out of their ears or their minds, but pulling them out through their ears. And David pulls out like something at first, and it's a goldfish, and he tosses it on the ground, and then he pulls something else out, and it's a glowing orb, but ultimately it's attached to a thing, and it's really a mace, like a medieval mace. And then Charles pulls out a bullet and puts it in a gun, and when they approach Farouk says, interesting, that of all of this, it's a very Matrix, it's a very Morpheus and Neo moment. Like, they're in the white, there's like a white, beautiful background. And Farouk says to them, like, you're 2 of the most powerful motherfuckers to ever walk the earth. It's interesting you could create and manifest anything you wanted, and you both chose weapons. I mean, like, what? Is the astral plane the 5th dimension in this narrative? I don't understand. But there's a moment also where Switch, once she realizes what she is, a 4th dimensional being, a time traveler, goes and engages with Sid, and whilst she's trying to fend off the time-eating cats, and Switch is the first person in 3 seasons to look Sid in the eye and say, the universe acknowledges you, you are of value, everything you have done has not been for nothing, nothing of value is lost, is quote unquote what Switch says. Nothing of value is ever lost. And she's saying this to Sid. This is the first time I think Sid has had, even after her second lifetime, has had someone like look her in the eyes and say, like, all of this work that you've done is acknowledged and validated and appreciated. I mean, it's a beautiful moment. It should have come from David, but the fact that it came at all was amazing. I'm still, and you can comment below, like, I'm really still a little bit nebulous on the future Sid that we saw in season 2 and how that relates to the dissolution of the timeline that we see in season 3. Yeah, there's some things. I mean, even Noah Hawley in the Hollywood Reporter interview, they're asking him about like the timeline, and where is it? He says there's definitely a rabbit hole you can go down looking at the timeline and what year this was and how old people were. If Oliver was in the astral plane for 21 years and David is 32 years old, one could go down that road. I'm not going to go down that road. I think a lot of changes, and then there are things that probably wouldn't change at all because people are who they are. So I think you could look at each character and like just like with Lost or any great narrative, sci-fi narrative, like really pick apart like what's going on. But you know, my asking that question about like future Sid and like the timelines is very reminiscent to me of like Lost and the Sawyer and Juliet narrative. And you know, you have their love intersecting and connecting them across time. Yeah, there's a lot. Ultimately, we know that Farouk has an epiphany and decides to develop a sense of empathy whilst being in the time of no time, and essentially, you know, shows his younger or past self what's about to happen and implores him to not invite David to engage, and implores him to not infect David, and essentially gives David the opportunity, and all of the characters, specifically Sid and David, the opportunity to be eradicated, which is how the episode begins, which is that time travel doesn't allow you to change anything, but it does allow for eradication. And in the eradication, something new can be born. So they are essentially erasing that timeline and giving baby David a new chance to rewrite his history. Charles goes back to his wife rather than fighting Farouk for, you know, decades or millennia. And that's kind of the segue or the, you know, insinuation of like the X-Men narrative, like he's gonna be a teacher and start the X-Men Academy. And Sid, you know, even tells David when they're standing side by side for the first time in a minute, you know, that she didn't do everything she did to save him. She did it to save baby him and give baby David a fair shake. So it's a beautiful moment, and they both kind of dissolve into the ether together. But it's also very bittersweet because I think she deserved her vengeance, and I don't think she got it. It was a very happy ending of an episode. And there's a moment when he and her are standing over baby David right before they dissolve into the ether, and he says to her, you know, I did all of this, which he claimed to have been trying to do over the past season and a half, which is to fix the past, right? Even though it was coming from a megalomania, narcissistic, God complex moment, Legion was trying to fix the past. And he says to her when they're standing by the crib overlooking baby him, he says, in doing this, you'll get an opportunity to live your life again and be extraordinary, because without me in your life, you will be extraordinary. And all I was thinking to myself when he said that to her was like, she already is extraordinary. She's been fucking extraordinary this entire show, this entire time. She's the best thing that ever happened to you. She's the only reason you are in this moment. She already was extraordinary. And it was just like I don't know if this was purposefully done by Noah Hawley and the writers, but she was extraordinary from Jump Straight. And to suggest that, like, by him waving his magic wand and eradicating their history, again, Sawyer and Juliet lost the whole thing, by giving baby David like a tabula rasa, I mean, this is all lost. This is like, John, like, this is lost. By giving baby David a clean slate, he's also giving Sid and everybody else a clean slate. And so she might have the opportunity, like, he's gifting her the opportunity to become extraordinary. Like, no, that bitch was and is and forever will be extraordinary. Those are all my notes. We just went through 3 pages of notes. I could keep going. I'm not going to. I was very happy with the finale, but there is a fair criticism by, and I'll link this as well below, an article on Polygon of a gentleman that watched the show who did not like Fargo and did not like Legion, and he makes some really fair criticisms of the final season, well, the show as a whole, but the final season in particular. But the most poignant being that the show, the finale, was very much a happy ending. And even I think Noah Hawley says this in the Hollywood Reporter interview, there's a fairy tale and allegorical element to the show in general, but specifically to the finale. But this gentleman who wrote the article for Polygon is taking issue with that. And so do I. And so do a couple other people that I've watched and read and listened to, that for a character as complex as David Haller, as complex as Legion, and for a character as complex as Sid, for characters as nuanced as Carrie and Carrie, for a character as complex and nuanced as Amal Al-Farouk, don't even get me started that there's no Lenny in the final 2 episodes, because it just breaks my heart too much to even talk about the fact that Lenny was not utilized up until the finale. But you have these characters, right? Like, that are so well developed. Even Ptonomy, before he went full mainframe, like, you have these characters, these comic book characters that Noah Hawley was able to extract and extrapolate so much from and create these human, fully realized characters with their own complex and nuanced arcs. But you have, I say all that to say, you have David in his megalomania and his narcissism and his mental illness and his God complex as Legion, and Amal Al-Farouk, these 2 villainous, beautiful characters. And then instead of having what would be like a delicious, unhappy ending, which was kind of alluded to with Sid, future Sid in season 2, like this apocalyptic ending, you have this very buttoned up, everyone like just went to therapy and saw a light worker and had some Reiki and just like realized, oh, let's be and work and act on our highest selves. It was this gentleman does name it. Like, it would have been a little bit more delicious and a little bit more realistic for this gentleman who is seriously mentally ill, who is also a telepath and one of the strongest supernatural characters in the Marvel Universe, son of Charles Xavier, who is also infected by this parasitic, equally strong character, entity, the Shadow King, Amal al-Farouk, for all of that to just be ruminating and marinating and like coming to a head, and then, everyone just being like, yeah, peace, love, and understanding, which, to the show's credit, they did sing that song in, episode 5? I don't know. It's just, I feel maybe some opportunities were missed, but all in all, for having only 3 seasons to work with, I think what Noah Hawley and the writers and the actors did was create, again, an experience that was unlike anything I've seen on television. It was, I'm surprised it even made 3 seasons. It's so cerebral and so trippy and metaphysical and philosophical, and asks big questions. Was it almost too smart for the audience? Was it... I think it was. And that's not meant as like, oh, I'm smarter than the people that didn't like it or get it. That's not what I'm trying to suggest. I'm saying that the narrative, much like Lost, much like Twin Peaks, much like a lot of shows, like Mr. Robot is a great example. Like, you have these really intense narratives that really require your time, your energy, and your focus, where, like Game of Thrones did, right? Like, you invested years, and there were so many characters and so many interwoven moments, but Game of Thrones wasn't asking big questions. I think Game of Thrones was asking a couple of questions, yes. Important ones, yes. But it wasn't on every moment of every episode asking you to really question reality and meaning and all of the rest of it. So I'm surprised it made it 3 seasons, but I'm glad that it did. It's, to me, gonna go down in the hallmark of great narratives on television and just great storytelling in general. And I would love to hear any comments from you guys on theories or what you liked, what you didn't like. We can make my comments just like its own subreddit. Like, let's go down the rabbit hole. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this if you are into Legion. If you're not into Legion and you watch this, blessings upon your family. I love you. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the other side. Cheers.